Thank you very, very warmly for your kind introduction, Mr. Derek Espinoza, in your capacity as Master of Ceremonies here this morning. Alderman Joel Martinez, First Citizen, Mayor of the City of Port of Spain, the Honorable Mr. Justice of Appeal, Ivor Archie, Chief Justice of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. In his absence, Mr. Reginald Amor, Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, my other cabinet and parliamentary colleagues present, all members of the diplomatic corps, as friends and supporters of the government and the people of Trinidad and Tobago, Mrs. Erla Christopher, Commissioner of Police of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, President of the Association of Caribbean Commissioners of Police, Mr. Edwin Martin, Commissioner of Police from the island of Grenada, other commissioners of the Association of Commissioners of Police, executive and members of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service present, and as I say members, in particular, the officers of the police band that has entertained us so beautifully and inspired us here this morning. The executive members of the other police forces and services present with us here today, other members of the head table, in particular, Commissioner Trevor Botting of Turks and Caicos Islands, John Lettany, Chief of Police and President of the International Association of Commissioners of Police, Madame Michelle Tiger, representing the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Personnel, NOBLE, delegates all, members of the media, very distinguished ladies and gentlemen. A lot has already been said, but in my view, important enough where applicable to restate some of it. And I must indicate that I received your invitation to be here this morning with more than usual pleasure. I accepted same, and as is obvious, I present myself to you this morning to address you on this, the occasion of your 37th Annual General Meeting and Conference of your proud association, the Caribbean Commissioners of Police. I do so with great pleasure, if only because, as a former police officer myself, and as Minister of National Security here in Trinidad and Tobago, working directly on an almost daily basis with the Commissioner of Police, I intimately and acutely understand the difficulties, the complexity of the nature of the jobs in front of every one of you, particularly in these trying times. This occasion presents a great opportunity for all of us, particularly you, since it gives you an opportunity to meet, to greet, to interface on a face-to-face basis with your regional and international brothers and sisters and partners to discuss issues which quite naturally, quite obviously, impact every one of us, not as individual states, but as a region and as a world. I'm advised that the Association of Caribbean Commissioners of Police was formally established, for those who are not members and unaware, in 1987 in Castries in St. Lucia by a resolution passed by 13 member states. At that time, your objectives were regional cooperation in the suppression of crime, criminal activities in such areas as narcotics, terrorism, and organized crime, the exchange of information in criminal investigations, the sharing of common services, which may include training, forensic analysis and research, and the effective management of law enforcement agencies. I am further advised that in the year 2000, you redefined your mission and objectives. These newer objectives are identified in your constitution and bylaws and includes developing and maintaining a professional organization committed to the improvement of policing in the region, to promote, foster, and encourage high professional and ethical standards in the pursuit of policing objectives, and to influence the development of laws, procedures, and practices that will advance the effectiveness of policing in the region. A cursory reading of these current objectives, when compared to those of 1987, may give one the misleading impression that they are somehow different in nature. A keener look reveals the contrary, though. For example, the objectives of maintaining a professional organization and being committed to the improvement of policing in the region reveals clearly that these objectives cannot be achieved without regional cooperation to suppress criminal activities, exchange information in criminal investigations, and of course, the effective management of law enforcement agencies. It is unquestionable that at the heart of the region's crime problem is the very sordid business of international, transnational organized crime and the related high murder rates that we are all experiencing. This is why your theme, the growing threat that organized crime has on our regional security, is so well chosen and so timely. In fact, the regional symposium alluded to earlier from this platform on violence as a public health issue, which was held right here in mid-April, bears this very patently out. Apart from the stark reminders of the similar circumstances, guided by our leaders, the region reaffirmed its commitment to the collaboration that we must practice, the CARICOM warrant, a common or integrated forensic science capacity, and through the Criminal Gang Intelligence Unit established last year through CARICOM Impacts, the sharing of intelligence among us. Our leaders in the outpourings of that symposium declared a war on guns, particularly assault weapons. And as we are all aware, action is being taken legislatively and otherwise at a country-by-country level to treat with the question of assault weapons in civilian hands in our midst, causing the devastation that it has been causing for many years past. Over the last 2 decades, the global security landscape has shifted due to the changing dynamics of the illicit trade in guns, drugs, and human beings. Guns and drugs in particular are now intrinsically linked to crime and can be considered a direct, clear, and present danger to our very democracy. I heard the Prime Minister of Jamaica articulate that quite forcefully during the symposium. It is indeed a threat to our democracy, to our nationhood, and as we all know, on a daily basis, our very lives. Transnational organized crime is considered one of the major threats to human security, impeding the social, economic, political, and cultural development of societies worldwide. It is a multifaceted phenomenon and has manifested itself in many ways, such as drug trafficking, trafficking in human beings, firearms, smuggling of migrants, money laundering, and such like. In particular, drug trafficking is one of the main activities of organized crime groups, generating enormous profits. The profits set up great influence in our communities. They set up poor examples of success and undermine our integrity and the institutions that are designed to protect us from them and to hold up the principles and the values by which we live. As globalization has expanded international trade, so too the range of organized criminal activities has broadened and indeed diversified. New information has emerged showing that traditional hierarchical forms of organized crime groups have diminished, replaced with looser networks which work cohesively together in order to exploit new market opportunities. The links between drug trafficking and other forms of transnational organized crime calls for a far more integrated approach to address this relationship. In Trinidad and Tobago, up to this current time, our beloved country, like the region as a whole, has been subjected to an almost relentless assault by criminal elements, which has resulted in record numbers of murders. Then, of course, there's the ever-increasing growth of gang activity in many parts of our country, our countries in this region. Organized crime is the catalyst for these unwanted ills. It is the main problem because it has spawned crime business models and made a big business of crime. It has professionalized it, made it transnational, generating huge income streams from drug trafficking and extortion, and it has made the criminal networks powerful players in a number of our little communities around this region. Our young people, juveniles even, are being sucked in. Mothers are watching their sons being recruited, actively pursued and recruited, to be used and often killed. Our ways of life are indeed at severe risk. Only last week, our transnational organized crime unit intercepted and seized 168.2 kilograms of cocaine from the intelligence they gathered intended for the United States. This valued at some 234 million Trinidad and Tobago dollars. I was amazed when I learned of some of the going-ons there, that those citizens of Trinidad and Tobago who would have been arrested by the police in that operation would so calmly take the risk of arrest, the risk of jail, the risk of death in many cases when things go even slightly bad. When you consider the near 20 tons valued at $1.3 billion found in Philadelphia in 2019, and a plant with production capacity of 200 kilograms per day, you wonder, really, where does the money to support all of that come from? You wonder who consumes all of that filth? What does it mean to us in our little communities around this region? How does all of this impact the breakings, the shootings, the muggings, the murders, the social displacement, and the mental health challenges that we entertain as reports and have to contend with? Moreover, the organized crime networks have formed alliances with carefully nurtured and selected players. They use their vast amounts of money and power to corrupt critical institutions of our countries. Sometimes, unfortunately, the very agencies and systems that are supposed and designed to, and paid and sworn to repress them. In the Caribbean basin, the challenge of avoiding the scourge of transnational crime, the illegal drug and gun trade, the attendant laundering of money, as well as other international criminal activities, has amplified because the world has now become, and a long time so, a much smaller global village. Here are some of the matters that have attracted us and some of the issues that we have gleaned from our observation on the region within recent times. Many countries of our region have surpassed previous murder records already for this year, with 8 of us falling in the top 20 of the world's most dangerous countries based on the high rates of homicides per capita. Every day in CARICOM, roughly 14 people are killed due to conflicts, interpersonal violence, and the rate of violent deaths in the CARICOM member states is almost 3 times the global average. Firearms are used in 75% of all homicides on average in CARICOM. In some countries, this proportion reaches as high as 90%. Last year in Trinidad and Tobago, we experienced 605 murders, and from information made available to me by the police, 87% of them were carried out with the use of firearms. Illicit small arms are fueling armed violence, gang warfare, and organized crime. And these have enormous health, social, and economic consequences. We have begun to study these in the context of our observation and our treating of violence as a public health issue regionally. They thwart our sustainable development efforts And the diversion and trafficking of firearms is a significant security threat to all of us, as has been stated numerous times within recent days. Serious crimes such as armed robbery and aggravated assaults continue to be on the increase across our region. Irregular migration continues to be a threat to the region, with threats emanating from within and externally. Migration routes are shifting, and the Caribbean is now seen as a means of reaching the final destination, usually the United States of America. The transshipment of cocaine is also increasing, and the routes are more diverse than ever, with more cocaine heading to Europe through very creative and varied routes. Environmental crimes continue to plague our region, and illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing continues to be a threat to our maritime domain. Cybercrimes such as online scams, ransomware, and business email compromise are increasingly problematic in the region, and the web is now a facilitator for transnational organized crime in the region. Some of the activities include, as we would have heard earlier, terrorism, child pornography, illicit trafficking in all forms. Distinguished commissioners, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, delegates all, international crime thrive on the relatively new development of the borderless world. As more developed countries strengthen their defense mechanisms against invasion from such criminal activities, it is quite clear that perpetrators are diverting their attention to this region. They see us as frail, as having low fences, and therefore we have to develop muscle. We have to develop height in order to protect ourselves, our people, particularly our young people. We have, if I would paraphrase the well-known, internationally famed Beres Hammond, we have to put up resistance. And that falls to you, the police organizations, in large part. Your presence here today bears testimony to your commitment to this, and we thank you for that. The Council of Ministers of National Security and Law Enforcement, CONSLE, agreed that the region should focus on firearms, human trafficking, cybersecurity, and maritime security. Notwithstanding this focus, it is imperative that our region focuses on building domain awareness, cyber, air, and maritime, since these three domains are the main facilitators of transnational organized crime. In addition, it has been recognized that in order to combat this, there has to be a systems-wide approach, inclusive of prevention, capacity building to address intelligence and investigation, a robust legislative framework to have updated legislation to support the judicial process, a strengthened criminal justice system, a strengthened corrections process which support the important business of rehabilitation and reintegration. All of this underpinned by our constant focus on the themes of protection, commitment, and dedicated work. There's much work to be done. Your leadership as commissioners of police, therefore, is critical to the achievement of these. It is your leadership that we depend on to continue to organize, to continue to professionalize, to continue to motivate every single one of the personnel under your charge so that they would function at the highest levels of professionalism, enthusiasm, and efficiency. I am convinced that the key to fighting transnational organized crime is all about cooperation. It's all about collaboration. It is all about robust information and intelligence sharing, and of course, supported by the traditional good old stock of hard and sensible work. We have the agencies of CARICOM Impacts and the RSS, and we are bringing them to bear as policymakers to support what you do. It is therefore critical for states to become party to agreements such as the Treaty of San Jose and to ratify the CARICOM Arrest Warrant Treaty. These will tighten our grip on those who are prepared to profit at our collective expense. I cannot stress enough how important it is for you as commissioners of police and our region's finest minds, most experienced at the business in front of you, to support these regional systems and to maximize the benefits that they offer. This 5-day conference here in the city of Port of Spain, organized in collaboration with our police service and, of course, the Ministry of National Security, should serve to further encourage regional cooperation in the fight against crime, and this is why it is gratifying to me. As we continue the sharing of information and other processes, we must all continue to adopt a proactive approach to ensure that the scourge of crime does not stunt our region's economic, social, and democratic development. I wish all of you participants great benefit and great success during this week-long conference. Wish you God's blessings as you face uncertain futures, better ready to cope with it. I thank you. God bless.